What's good, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm bringing you all another fantasy football video. And in today's video, we are talking wide receiver start and sits. Who should you be putting in your lineup for week 1, and who should be riding the bench for you? We're going to be talking about every single matchup in today's video. So if you're excited for this one, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you are new. I would greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, I hope you all enjoy the video, and let's get it.
Minika, watch me on Twitch, ooh, I'm streaming. I'm on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, red button beaming. Let's get that sub count, take over YouTube, ooh, we teaming. My content so high, ooh, yeah, I'm steaming. Ooh, yeah, I'm steaming, red button beaming.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking week 1 wide receiver starts and sits. Just like my running back video, I will be doing every single matchup. These are going to be just my opinion. There is definitely a chance I'm going to get some of these wrong. Nobody goes 100% with the starts and the sits. So if you disagree with me or you agree with me, that is completely okay. In the comments down below, give me your start and sits for specific matchups. And if you have questions on who you should be starting and who you should be sitting, I will do my best to answer all your comments with your questions. But we're going to get things started with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. Now in this game, I expect Dallas to be playing catch up. So in the beginning of the game, you may be holding your breath for Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, but I expect them to pick it up towards the tail end of the game with Tampa Bay having the lead for the most part of this game. As long as Dak is healthy, we know he has that shoulder injury and coming off that ankle injury from last year. So if he is healthy, I expect him to get some garbage points. I'm having Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb both as starts this week. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin also going to be starts. I don't think all 3 of these guys from each team can eat this week. We will have to see how it's going to play out for Tampa Bay and for Dallas. Will Michael Gallup and Antonio Brown be good fantasy options this year? I'm waiting to see before I put them into my starting lineup. So that is why I have Michael Gallup and Antonio Brown as sits this week. Now we have Seahawks and Colts up next, and we all know Russell Wilson is an MVP candidate for the first 5 to 6 weeks of the season before he starts the cool down, which means DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are going to be starts for me this week. The Colts pass defense does not scare me that much. I expect Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to have good games, and without T.Y. Hilton now that he's hurt, I expect Michael Pittman to have a pretty good game this week, so I'll also list him as a start. As for Paris Campbell and Zach Pascal, I won't start any of them week 1. Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz trending towards playing, so if they're both playing, I expect Michael Pittman to have a solid performance for you on your fantasy football teams as a flex option. As for the Jaguars and the Texans, we don't start Houston Texans on this channel. I said in the running back video yesterday, and I'll say it with the wide receivers as well. Brandon Cooks is not a bad wide receiver, but he's on a bad team with Tyrod Taylor. Don't expect him to take too many deep shots to Brandon Cooks. He may get some late garbage time points, but we're not going to rely on garbage time points here for the Houston Texan players in week 1 in our fantasy leagues. If you're starting Brandon Cooks, you may be in trouble in your fantasy leagues very early this year. I will start Marvin Jones though in deep fantasy leagues. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville to start the season, so I'll list him as a start. As for DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault, I'll have them as a sit to start this season. I think Shenault and DJ Chark could be decent wide receiver 2 options on the Jags and very deep flex options in some leagues later on in the season, but as for right now, I'm going to sit them in week 1. Eagles and Falcons up next, and I love Calvin Ridley this year. Going to be a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy in my opinion this year. Russell Gage is a decent wide receiver 2 for the Falcons for a decent flex play on your fantasy team this week. Devontae Smith is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, so I will take a chance with Devontae Smith this week in your starting lineups. As for Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, and Alamai Zacchaeus, I will sit all of them and see how they progress over this season. I think this should be a very high-scoring game on the slate, and the Falcons have a top 10 run defense, so if the Eagles want to hang around in this game, they're going to have to air the ball out. I think they're going to go to Devontae Smith. Our next matchup is the Los Angeles Chargers and the Washington football team, and originally, I thought this may be a high-scoring game, but I've changed my mind from that, from what I originally thought. Washington's front 7 is just so good, and the Chargers pass defense is not bad either. So the only 2 guys I'm going to start in this matchup is Keenan Allen and Terry McLaurin. Start your studs, those guys you selected in the 2nd or 3rd round of your drafts. So we're starting both of them. As for Mike Williams and Curtis Samuel, I think they're both due for good weeks later on the season, but I don't think they're going to have good weeks in week 1. Same for Adam Humphries, who I don't have listed here. If Curtis Samuel does not play, maybe Adam Humphries is a play in a deep fantasy league, but I wouldn't wouldn't start him either. But yeah, start your studs in this matchup. Other than that, I wouldn't start anyone else. As for the Steelers and the Bills, we have a lot of starts for this game. We have Stephon Diggs, elite fantasy wide receiver option, top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. Cole Beasley finished as the wide receiver 26 in PPR formats last year, so we're starting him as well. Claypool and Deontay Johnson will be starts for me for the Pittsburgh Steelers. More faith in Deontay Johnson this week. He gets more receptions than Claypool and Smith-Schuster. Claypool is a little more TD dependent, so Big Ben in the red zone may look for Claypool, so I will list Chase Claypool as a start. As for Juju Smith-Schuster, he has too low of a floor to start him. He might get like 3 catches for 30 yards, and his ceiling is just not there. He does not make those big plays like Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson might. And then Emmanuel Sanders, not going to start him. Going to see how he fits into this Bills offense before I start him in my lineup. Some things to look out for, though, is that TJ Watt may not play this game. If he does not play this game, I like Diggs and I like Beasley even more. 49ers and Lions up next. In the starts, we have Brandon Ayuk. If he's active, he is nursing a hamstring injury right now. So if he's active, you can put him into your starting lineup with confidence. If he's not active, Deebo Samuel becomes an elite wide receiver option this week. High-end wide receiver too, but even if Ayuk is playing, I will still put Deebo in the start column. As for any of the Detroit Lions wide receivers, we are not starting them. They're all in the sit column. We have Tyrell Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. None of them will be starting for me in week 1. Jared Goff has always been terrible against the San Francisco 49ers on a better roster with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. When he was on the Los Angeles Rams, I'm not expecting him to have a good game on the Detroit Lions now against this 49ers team, so I will start nobody on the Detroit Lions. As for the Vikings and the Bengals, I expect this to be a very high scoring game. Don't think either of these past defenses are very good, so we're firing up a lot of people. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The only guy we're really sitting in this matchup is Jamar Chase. I want to give him some time to fit into this Bengals offense with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow coming off that ACL injury. Chase did not have the best preseason out of all the rookie wide receivers. He was dropping some balls in the preseason games that he did play, so let's give it a couple weeks before we fire up Jamar Chase into our lineups. But as for Adam Thielen, no Irv Smith Jr. anymore, so Adam Thielen's touchdown upside just went up. So I think Adam Thielen will be a good wide receiver too this year. Boyd is a PPR machine, so if you're playing in a PPR format, Tyler Boyd is always a good play. As for T. Higgins, going to be a big red zone target for Joe Burrow. Jets and Panthers up next, and we have a double revenge game on our hands with Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold. I think they're both going to eat this week. I expect at least 1 touchdown from Robbie Anderson, so he's in my start column. As for DJ Moore, I think he'll have a good game as well, so he's in the start column. And then Corey Davis, Zach Wilson loved this guy in preseason, absolutely funneled him targets when they were on the field together, so Corey Davis is in my start column. As for Elijah Moore and Terrence Marshall, they're going to be sits for me this week. I think they're going to be good throughout the season, but I don't think so in week 1. Cardinals and Titans up next. This one's going to be a very exciting game. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game. That Cardinals pass defense is not the best, so I expect the Titans to air the ball out with AJ Brown and Julio Jones. I'm starting both of them with confidence. You always start DeAndre Hopkins, elite wide receiver option. As for AJ Green, Rondale Moore, and Christian Kirk, all in the sit column for me. I don't know who's going to break out as that number 2 wide receiver. Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore could easily explode on any given week, but I'm not going to bet on one of them in week 1. Let's see who develops as that wide receiver 2 in Arizona. As for the Browns and the Chiefs, we are back on the Odell Beckham bandwagon. Every single year since he got traded to the Browns, we say this is going to be the year, and coming off that injury last year, can Odell Beckham Jr. turn it around? I'll give him the nod in week 1. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in starting him in week 1, but if he disappoints us, he's going back to the bench. As for Tyreek Hill, you start him every single week. He could absolutely explode any given week and win you a fantasy matchup with 1 game. We are sitting Jarvis Landry as an okay floor at like 9 to 10 points, but his ceiling's really only 15 to 16 points. I hope you have better fantasy options, but if you don't, you could start Jarvis Landry in deeper leagues. And then as for me, Cole Hardman, we know he's going to have 3 or 4 really good games where he gets like 20 plus points off 2 touchdowns and like 70, 80 receiving yards, but we don't know when those games are going to be, and we're not going to start him in week 1. In the Dolphins and Patriots game, I will start nobody at the wide receiver position. No Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, or Nelson Aguilar. They will all be sits for me this week. The Patriots and the Dolphins pass defenses are pretty solid, so I'm not going to start any of these wide receivers. Let's see who proves something in week 1. Is Tua or Mac Jones going to have a good game passing the ball? Until they prove that to me, I'm not going to start any of these wide receivers. I do think Jacoby Myers and Jalen Waddle will pick it up at some point in the season, but I don't think they're going to get it done in week 1, especially Jacoby Myers against Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. In the Broncos and Giants game, I think this will be the lowest scoring game of the week. I honestly think it's going going to be a snooze fest, and I'm a Giants fan. I might not even watch this game. I'll probably be watching Red Zone the entire time this game is on and just watch the highlights because I don't think much is going to happen in this game. I will start Jerry Jeudy and sit Courtland Sutton, sit Kenny Golladay, and sit Sterling Shepard. For Jerry Jeudy, he will not see shadow coverage, most likely from James Bradberry. That should go to Courtland Sutton. James Bradberry normally shadows the bigger wide receiver. In this case, it is Courtland Sutton, so I will sit Courtland Sutton. As for Kenny Golladay, I picked him in fantasy. I'm hoping he picks it up later on in the year. That is why I picked him in the 6th round in my draft. But as for week 1, he was basically unhealthy the entire offseason, and Daniel Jones, as a Giants fan, is just not that good. So we'll see if they can build some chemistry throughout the season, and Kenny Golladay can get back to that wide receiver 2, maybe even wide receiver 1 level. But for week 1, against a good Broncos defense, I'm not going to start Kenny Golladay, and then Sterling Shepard we're also going to put on the bench. We have 3 games left to talk about, everyone, so if you're enjoying the video and you're finding it useful, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new for more fantasy football content. In the comments down below, once again, let me know what you guys agree with and you disagree with. But let's get into the Packers and the Saints. We are starting Davante Adams every single week, the best wide receiver in fantasy football. As for Marquez Callaway, I will start him in deeper leagues, but if he sees Jair Alexander, I could see him not having a great game, except maybe late in the game when they're playing catch up, because I expect the Packers to win this game and get a decent lead. We'll see what Jameis Winston can do. Can he actually throw the ball to his team and not the other team? So we will start Marquez Callaway, but I'm not too confident in that. As for Randall Cobb, NVS, and Traquan Smith, if Traquan Smith does play, I will sit all 3 of them. Sunday Night Football now, we have the Bears and the Rams. We are starting Allen Robinson, even though he's going to see Jalen Ramsey. I know it's not the best matchup, but chances are he's your wide receiver 2 or even your wide receiver 1 on your team, so you're going to start Allen Robinson even against the bad matchup, and hopefully he can get the best of Jalen Ramsey, maybe get you 15 or 16 fantasy points. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp we are going to start. I expect Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel to not have the best game on the ground, so I think Matthew Stafford is going to have to air the ball out, and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are both really good fantasy options, especially in PPR formats. As for Darnell Mooney, he could get a deep shot or 2. If he converts those into touchdowns, he can have a big day, but I'm not confident in starting him in week 1. And the final game of week 1 is the Ravens and the Raiders, and this is that second game I told you about earlier where I will start nobody at the wide receiver position. I will sit Hollywood Brown, Sammy Watkins, Henry Ruggs, and Bryan Edwards this week. Who is going to be the alpha for the Raiders and the Ravens? The best wide receiver on the Raiders is Darren Waller, but he plays tight end, so that's not going to help you in this video. I don't think Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards are going to have a good game this week. We will see who will be the number 1 later on in the season. I think it's going to be Bryan Edwards. As for Hollywood Brown and Sammy Watkins, we'll see if Lamar Jackson can throw the ball this year. If he can, I think Sammy Watkins will emerge as the alpha in this offense. Okay, everyone, that's going to do it for the video today. My week 1 wide receiver start and sits. If you enjoyed the video and you found it useful, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you are new. In the comments down below, let me know what you agreed and disagree with. Would you like me to do tight ends and quarterbacks? Let me know in the comments down below. If you would like to, you can find my social links, which are on the screen for you all right now, including my Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, stuff like that. But that's to do it for me today, everyone. I will see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.